My name is Tatiana Kanberg, and I'm the IGU Strategic Communications and Membership Director. With me also today, I have Andrea Stager. Andrea is the Vice President of the IGU, but he's also an advisor at Snam, so conveniently he joins us here today. To my left, I have Vijay Krishnan. He's the head of Rystad Energy Asia Pacific. Thank you both so much for joining us today. And so it is my pleasure to kick off the press conference and the presentation of the Global Gas Report. Especially, it is my pleasure to present it in Daegu at the 28th World Gas Conference. So I think it's an extremely timely moment for this publication, and what better opportunity to consider lessons from the rather unusual 2 years in the gas sector than at the main global gas industry event, when everybody's gathered here to discuss a path to a sustainable future powered by gas. Particularly, the report considers the two most crucial topics on today's energy agenda, I would say, energy security and energy transition. I look very much forward to the forthcoming presentation of the report's key findings, which Vijay will provide. But first, let me pass the floor to Andrea.
Thank you. So good evening, good afternoon, good morning again from my side as well. It's a pleasure to be here, as Tatiana was saying, in a physical room, and it's recalling me the good old days of the World Gas Conference in 2018 in Washington, D.C., when we had the first release of the Global Gas Report jointly produced by Snam and IGU. I think industry, policy and external events that happened since then, of course, are well recapped in the Global Gas Report today, especially in the last 2 years. And a document is providing an understanding of what's happened, plus a solid viewpoint on what's the next in terms of dynamics. Security, affordability, and sustainability, of course, are the pillars the industry is working on. And there, I think the IGU is providing a very solid understanding of what's going on as well. Infrastructures, at the same time, will play a fundamental role in connecting demand and supply and diversifying sources and means through which we are providing energy to consumers. So molecules will be not just natural gas, but also new gases for sure. And that's where I think technological investment and innovation are needed to support these low and zero carbon gases to sustain both economic growth and environmental sustainability and reduction of emissions. For this, I think the international cooperation will be certainly key. And I would say the Global Gas Report provides a good insight in that. So up to you now, Vijay, for the meat of the bone, on the bones. Thank you.
Good day, everyone. Thank you, Andrea. First, we would like to thank SNAM and the International Gas Union for awarding Rystad Energy this important and exciting project, and for the good cooperation throughout the process of developing the Global Gas Report 2022. We appreciate the opportunity to present the report here in person at the 28th World Gas Conference in Daegu, Korea. In this presentation, I will share some of the key highlights from the report, as well as some of the key lessons learned. Similarly to this report, this presentation will focus on the key drivers currently shaping the gas industry, explore how gas can play an important role as a secure and reliable source of energy, and review the role of low-carbon gases in decarbonizing the global energy system. Let's start by reviewing the recent developments in the gas market. A positive lesson from COVID-19 demand shocks has been the gas value chain's ability to adapt to changing demand patterns. Throughout the pandemic, the gas value chain has been powering many critical societal functions, including power, water supply, hospital equipment, food production, and medical component manufacturing. Despite the challenging operational environment with lockdowns, closed borders, and a reduced workforce from people being sick, the gas industry has been able to deliver a stable and secure source of energy throughout the pandemic. With the pandemic hitting different geographies at different times, we saw volumes being rerouted to areas less affected by the pandemic. We also saw changes in sectoral demand. For instance, the US gas consumption in the power generation sector increased by 3% from 2019 to 2020, despite an overall decrease in power generation. In the post-pandemic recovery, the gas value chain has been able to ramp up supply to meet the surge in demand, with 2021 supply exceeding pre-pandemic levels. Gas market has seen unprecedented price volatility over the last 2 years. European gas prices fell to record lows of 120 per MMBTU in May 2020, triggered by nationwide lockdowns and a pandemic-driven low demand environment. US LNG cargoes were cancelled between April and July as the market remained oversupplied. Prices recovered quickly in 2021 and rallied upward as the pace of global economic activity picked up and gas demand increased, outpacing capacity additions. Both the Asia spot and TTF gas prices hit record highs, with the Asia spot price peaking at $54 per MMBTU as Europe and Asia competed for LNG cargoes. The Russia-Ukraine conflict that started in February 2022 further exacerbated the already tight market, and the TTF front month contract was propelled to new highs of $68 per MMBTU early March this year. A significant price premium was observed for European cargoes for the first time as Asian gas was traded at a relatively discounted price. As a result of the high volatility, we expect long-term LNG contract to gain popularity to reduce exposure to spot-priced market volatility, especially in Europe. European market, which has been purchasing most of its LNG from the spot and future market, was particularly exposed to the price shocks in 2021 and 2022. With lower volumes flowing from Russia, Europe's reliance on cargoes from the US, Africa, and the Middle East increased. China was to some extent shielded from high gas prices due to its preference for long-term oil index contracts over spot cargoes. And a higher share of long-term LNG contracts can be used to minimize exposure to market volatility. As a consequence of tight markets, intense competition for LNG cargoes between buyers in Europe and Asia was observed. In December 2021, several ships carrying US LNG destined for Asia were directed to change course mid-voyage, as demand in Europe spiked and prices surged to new highs. 3 LNG carriers with LNG from the US were all diverted to Europe from its intended destinations in Asia. Some African LNG cargoes en route from Nigeria and Equatorial Guinea to Asia were redirected to Europe as well. In 2020, we saw a 27% drop in capital investments compared to the year before, caused by operators trying to preserve cash amid a low price environment, uncertainty around future demand, and policy direction. These factors created an unfavorable investment environment, and the reduced investments of 2020 also came on top of several years with lower investments into upstream assets after the 2014 oil price crash. In 2013, the global upstream capex was more than $700 billion, while between 2015 and 2019, the number was trending between $400 and $500 billion. This underinvestment over the last few years, and especially throughout the COVID-19 pandemic, has created shortages across all energy commodities, not just for gas. However, for gas, we are for the first time seeing a crisis similar to what we saw in oil during the 1970s, causing supply shortages and price spikes. This has again put energy security high on the agenda for everyone. Let's now turn our focus to energy security, and let's start by defining what we mean by energy security. Energy security can be defined as continuous and uninterruptible access to affordable energy. Energy security relies on 3 pillars, which are access. Energy should be universally accessible so that people and businesses can benefit from modern energy services and products. Affordability. Energy should be offered at a price that allows all people to use energy to meet their needs for heating, cooling, and other uses without compromising their ability to meet other basic needs. And reliability. Energy systems should be designed in a way that provides a continuous and uninterruptible supply of energy despite geopolitical events, extreme weather, and other disruptions that can limit access to energy. The current energy crisis, exacerbated by the Russia-Ukraine conflict, is challenging these key aspects of energy security. In the next few slides, we will talk about these challenges and how they can be addressed. In response to the Russia-Ukraine conflict, the European Union has responded with a number of policies to increase the energy security in Europe. Some of these key elements of these measures include plans for supply diversification, policies for use of gas storage, and scale up of the green gases. The REPower EU sets out an ambitious plan to reduce the dependence on Russian gas in Europe. And as part of the plan, EU aims to cut imports of Russian gas by 2/3 by the end of 2022 and become independent of Russian fossil fuels by 2030. Storage can also play an important role in ensuring energy security by balancing disruptions to the supply chain. In addition to investing in more storage capacity, governments can impose mandates for minimum storage levels. This has been a common existing practice with oil, where governments and private practices hold inventories to safeguard the economy and maintain energy security. The European Commission has proposed a mandate of European gas storage to be filled to at least 90% of its capacity by October 1st every year. The EU's REPower EU envisages 35 BCM of biomethane and 20 million tons of clean hydrogen demand in Europe by 2030, making up 25% of total natural gas market demand. Since the onset of the Russian-Ukraine conflict, several European countries have taken steps to reduce their dependency on Russian gas, and we have already seen more than 10 new LNG import terminals or expansions being proposed across Europe. These include terminals in Italy, Germany, UK, France, the Netherlands, among others. One of the key benefits of LNG is that it offers flexible infrastructure that is independent of export countries, and as such, it can accommodate gas from different supply sources and is therefore less prone to disruptions due to geopolitical risks or other risk factors. Many of the newly proposed terminals are FSRUs, which has the benefit of being quickly deployed. If supporting infrastructure is already in place and an FSRU unit is available, commissioning time can be as low as 3 months. Emissions have been on an upward trend since 2020, especially in the power generation sector, exacerbated by the post-COVID-19 recovery in power demand and increase in coal emissions due to gas to coal switching. This switching is a result of the high gas prices outpacing coal prices, exacerbated by the 2021-2022 global energy supply tightness and the 2022 Russian-Ukraine conflict. As an example, carbon and coal emissions in Europe have risen by 11% and 20% respectively between February 2020 and February 2022. Longer term, the trend of gas to coal switching may change, driven by energy demand supply rebalancing, with global gas production ramping up supply capacities to meet demand growth, such as new LNG megatrain developments from Qatar, Mozambique, shale gas developments primarily from Argentina and the US lower 48, among other deep water projects globally. Policy mandates to phase out coal, with EU countries already announcing firm plans to phase out approximately 40 gigawatt of coal-fired generation before 2030, of which Europe is expected to add 34 gigawatts of new capacity to make up for the coal retirements. Another policy move in tightening EU allowances, of which the EU Fit for 55 policy recently announced reductions of allowances from 2.2% to 4.2% in the ETS market. In 2021, we saw the increased frequency of extreme weather events due to climate change, posing significant challenges to the reliable functioning of the global energy system. And the map on this slide shows some of these events. Periods of extreme heat and cold, as well as drought and extended periods with low wind speeds have highlighted some of the inherent reliability challenges of today's energy systems. In this year's edition of the Global Gas Report, we present 4 case studies on how extreme weather events impacted the energy system in 2021, including the Texas deep freeze, the Turkish drought, the US summer heat wave, and periods with low wind speeds across Europe. These case studies highlight the important role that gas plays in providing stable power supply during periods of renewable intermittency, as well as the challenges associated with the interconnectedness of modern energy systems. With the frequency of extreme weather only expected to increase in the coming years, we expect these type of events to impact energy systems even more in the future. And as such, these case examples point to the need for deliberate and system-wide planning to ensure reliability. In 2021, Europe experienced several periods with lower than normal wind speeds, resulting in lower power generation from wind. The chart on this slide shows the UK power mix in 2021, and it shows that there were periods in February, April, and September where wind accounted for less than 10% of the UK's power generation for extended periods of time. This is around 1/3 the average share of wind in power generation in 2020. This chart also shows that gas played an important role in balancing out the intermittent power generation from renewables. This case illustrates the risk of a too high reliance on renewables and the need for stable power generation. I might be running out of power soon, but we'll crack on. And so, you know, the reliance and where gas can play such an important role. A growing, next slide. A growing number of, next slide, Lily. A growing number of countries, businesses, and investors are committing to stronger climate ambitions. 130 countries have pledged to achieve net zero emissions by mid-century. Together, they account for over 88% of global CO2 emissions. Thousands of companies with a combined market cap of 38 trillion have pledged to reduce emissions in line with climate science. Low and zero carbon gas technologies play a critical role for the world to reach climate ambitions in time. Carbon capture, utilization, and storage, CCUS, hydrogen, and biomethane are important examples of low carbon gas technologies. They will be important to achieve deep decarbonization, particularly in the hard-to-abate sectors where electrification may be prohibitively expensive or technically impossible, such as steel, cement, shipping, and heavy-duty transportation. Moreover, low-carbon gas technologies act as key complements to renewables in a decarbonized energy system, providing grid balancing in longer periods of intermittency. Recent studies have shown that hydrogen could be a promising energy storage solution where large volumes could be stored in underground sites, for example. In the development of all three low carbon technologies, the natural gas industry acts as a key enabler, providing feedstock and infrastructure. And this, we feel, presents opportunities for the long-term growth of the gas industry. In the CCUS, the world is actually currently capturing around 45 million tons of CO2 per year, where over 80% of capture volume today comes from a gas processing and hydrogen production facilities. There have been some new applications in power generation and in other parts of the industrial sector, including cement. Historically, enhanced oil recovery, EOR, has been a key enabler for CCUS projects. This has also driven North America's dominance in the CCUS market. With increasing carbon pricing and incentives, there is growing momentum for projects targeting dedicated storage, including several offshore projects in Europe. Notably, the number of CCUS projects announced spiked in 2021, propelled by a growing number of countries and companies ramping up efforts to meet zero targets. Projections based on currently announced projects, global CO2 capture capacity is expected to reach around 550 million tons per annum by 2030, a 25% average growth rate per year. While this is encouraging, CCUS deployment rate will need to accelerate to reach the required global CO2 capture volume of 8 gigatons by 2050 to achieve Rystad Energy's 1.6-degree scenario. North America and Europe are expected to contribute up to 80% of the market, driven by encouraging policies. Most projects in the region are likely to come from cluster projects, which rely heavily on availability of infrastructure. CCUS demands towards 2030 will likely be highly driven by policies and support, especially for hard to decarbonize sectors such as although currently not available in abundance, low and zero carbon hydrogen adoption is likely to grow in the future, underpinned by a shift towards cleaner sources of hydrogen from existing segments and a surge in clean hydrogen demand from new and used segments such as maritime fuel and steel. Blue hydrogen has been the more economical form of low carbon hydrogen. However, in the near term, blue hydrogen's cost competitiveness may be eroded by high natural gas prices, which is a key cost driver. Green hydrogen is already competitive in areas with excellent renewable resources. The role of blue hydrogen will be highly dependent on developments in the natural gas market. As feedstock for blue hydrogen, natural gas supply will be an important ingredient in the hydrogen market. Infrastructure also plays a key role as an enabler for the development of hydrogen market. It enables the creation of an international market by connecting areas with low production costs with demand centers. An existing natural gas infrastructure may also be repurposed, thereby reducing delivery cost. Like low carbon hydrogen, deployment of biomethane has been low. However, biomethane could be scaled up substantially as a form of renewable natural gas with a wide range of applications. With quality comparable to natural gas, it can supplement or directly substitute natural gas in many gas-intensive application areas, while enabling the use of existing transport and storage infrastructure with little to no modification. Today, biomethane makes up less than 1% of natural gas production. There are around 770 biomethane plants globally. The market is concentrated within China and a few countries in Europe, including Germany and Denmark. Biomethane is produced by upgrading raw biogas, and within Europe, an increasing amount of biogas is being upgraded to grid quality methane. Denmark has committed to achieving 100% biomethane fed gas grid by 2040. Under its RE-Power EU plan to reduce reliance on gas imports, the EU targets to produce 35 BCM of biomethane by 2030. As we have seen in this presentation, gas is critical for a secure, affordable, and sustainable decarbonization of the global energy system. Three key things need to happen to deliver on this, and in order to ensure energy security, industry and policymakers should collaborate on developing new supply and related infrastructure to ensure supply diversification. In order to ensure the competitiveness of gas and energy as a whole, new supply must be developed to rebalance the gas market and ensure the competitiveness of gas. Finally, we need to continue to deliver on decarbonization targets through comprehensive greenhouse gas reductions when substituting more polluting fuels, and through the scaling of low and zero carbon gas technologies. With that, I thank you very much.